Moving right along now, our next item on the program, third to last item, is that entitled A Speech from the Beginning, quite appropriate. And this speech, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be presented by the only founding member of the Forum Toastmasters Club, still a member. And since the inception, of course, when we chartered in the year 1975. He's a past scholar from the Pretoria Boys High School, and where he excelled in a number of subjects, and I'm told from Mr. Wilbauker, not in mathematics, but his parents still had and believed that he had a promising career path ahead of him. And he chose politics, and he still goes on promising, would you believe? Ladies and gentlemen, to share with us his journey from the beginning, very appropriate to Forum Toastmasters Club on this stupendous occasion, would you please welcome with me Advanced Communicator Gold, Peter Millar.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, I remember very clearly the first meeting I attended a Forum Toastmasters Club. I had heard about Toastmasters, and when I was invited to attend a meeting, I was very excited. Because I knew there was something here for me. But remember, I was only 25 years old. I was very uncertain of myself. I didn't know where I was going. I wasn't sure what to do. I was a little arrogant. I was a little overconfident at times, but I was not able to speak to an audience. And I was promised Toastmasters would sort all this out. But I also, of course, had ambitions. I knew where I wanted to go. So along I went to the German club in downtown Pretoria. I was well dressed in those days. I wore a three-piece suit, yes, with a tie. Yes, yes. In those days, I was still a capitalist. So, yeah. And sartorial elegance was the way I believed the world would be won. And with my bush of golden red hair, I was certainly the gentleman about town. But the meeting was rather intimidating. I was the youngest person there. However, they warmly welcomed me, and I did know some of them members already, but they were all successful businessmen, professionals, lawyers, accountants, people like that. And of course, the president was Henry Plucher. They seated me next to James Ballantyne, and he was a very impressive speaker, very erudite, and had an incredible command of the English language. And that really impressed me. And of course, he was a stirrer of note. And that very first time I attended, I thought, that's something I can do. And I'm going to learn from James Ballantyne how to stir things up. What did I find interesting about that very first meeting? And what impressed me was that it was orderly. I look back now and realize that's what I wanted in my life, was a sense of orderliness. Everything was in its place. Everything worked so wonderfully smoothly. And I was astounded. I was amazed how it worked and how eloquent all the members were. And they really were. I was just enthralled by the presence of some of these people and what they could say. And as the meeting went on, and it got to table topics, and I watched what happened, and I thought, okay, I'll never be able to do that. You can't just throw a subject at me and expect me to speak. So I'll never do table topics. And then it moved on, and they were prepared speeches. They seemed to me to be so good. And they were followed by evaluations. And I thought, well, the evaluations I'll never be able to do either. That's not for me, because I don't know anything about public speaking. And I noticed some members chaired certain sections of the meeting. And I thought, okay, well, they'll never ask me to do that because I don't know what to do. But everybody was very kind. And of course, after the meeting, they took me to the pub, bought me drinks, and then I was really impressed. They, of course, encouraged me to join the club. And my arm was twisted. I've always had a bit of a rubber arm, but I twisted quite easily, and I thought, this is maybe a good idea. This is where I belong. A few weeks later, I was inducted. And my first speech, as Henry spoke about, the icebreaker. I took the day off work to do the preparation. And I spent at least half the day on the toilet. I was scared. I was terrified of doing the speech. But something said to me, just do it. Just go ahead and do it. You'll be okay. You will survive this. And I want to tell you that speaking about yourself is actually quite a difficult thing. I think particularly when you're 25 years old. I can do it now because I know how to smooth over the rough parts, which I wasn't too sure of then. So yes, I think that added to the stress of the whole evening. How the speech went, I don't know. The members of Forum were very polite. They all said to me, well done, they were encouraging, they were helpful. But I think what they were actually saying to me is, better luck next time. There were next times, and I still don't think I got it right. What really changed me was a few months later, they said to me, the person we've designated to be Sergeant at Arms, and that was Jock Seeliger, has decided to go off and do an MBA. Will you be the Sergeant at Arms? And I wasn't sure, but they bullied me into it, or maybe I agreed too eagerly. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened. It was the greatest learning experience I could ever have had. And why? Because the sergeant speaks at every meeting. You are part of that meeting. And in those days, you started the meeting, you introduced the members, and you did the final session. So the meeting was very much yours, and you were in charge. And James Valentine, who then became president, said to me, it's your meeting, you're in charge. Which was quite interesting, as I was still the youngest member of the club, and I was in charge. And I enjoyed that part. I actually had power. When I look back now, I guess I learned very quickly what leadership was without actually realizing it. Because there you are, somebody says to you, you're in charge and you've got to do things and you've got to make it happen. And I did. And I think I did it well. I became more involved with the club, with public speaking, and all the aspects that go with it. And I think that's where I learned confidence, I learned to be organized, and I learned all those things, wonderful things that you get at Toastmasters. I started partaking in table topics. and found it was actually, who can bullshit better than I can for 2 minutes? It became a simple thing. And evaluations, yeah, that was easy. I could part with knowledge even if I didn't know what I was talking about. My life did change because of Toastmasters. And I believe I've coped so much better with life, personal and professional, because of the things I've learned. I would never have been able to do this, all that I do and all I've done, I think, if I hadn't been a Toastmaster. I may have tried them, but I don't think I could have done them as well. Toastmasters gives you that edge. And that's what everybody needs. And I think they should teach us these things at school. That should be our education, not mathematics, which I still can't do. Can't even do basic arithmetic, let alone mathematics. What was the success of Forum? In those early days, they laid such a good foundation. And I think we've all followed those examples. We realized what those good foundations were, and we've carried on building on that. And that is a lesson for life. Build on the foundations that you have. One of the best things I've ever done in my life was to attend that meeting, a Forum Toastmasters Club, in the winter of 1979, and joining a stupendous club, Mr. Toastmaster. Well done. Well done.
Wonderful to hear the progress you have made over the years, Mr. Millar. Tremendous stuff, and thank you for sharing that anecdote with all of us. I'm sure we all enjoyed and were able to, I guess, sympathize, because we've all been on similar kinds of a journey. But so good to hear the success that you've had over the years, and how nice it is to know that you once wore a suit, a three-piece suit with a tie, and that you do appreciate the rest of us who do. So thank you, Peter. If there is time, we will ask questions if some of the guys would like to do that a little later, but we can come back to that, but we need to just finish the program first.